Well, here we are, Stab the Dragon, episode 2. I'm feeling very safe tonight. I've got my Aldous Huxley mask on. I've got safety glasses. I've got a World War I steel helmet on. So all the libs out there, you should feel safe because I am safe. I mean, this is about as safe as it can get. I do hope to get a full army gas mask so I can protect myself against the China virus. But this way, everybody watching, you should feel safe. I'm not going to give you anything through the computer. So anyway, it's all about being safe, right? That's the most ridiculous thing I ever did see. Yeah. Everybody's trying to... What is this thing hanging down? My helmet's falling apart. This thing's only over 100 years old. There we go. I don't know. Now that broke. Oh well. We're here tonight to do a whiskey review. Stab the Dragon episode 2. Well, let's start things off the right way with a little Charlie Daniels.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible,
with liberty and justice for all. A little bit of Charlie Daniels because we're reviewing tonight a Texas whiskey. This is going to be TX Bourbon, made right here in Fort Worth, Texas, by Firestone and Robertson. This is a 90 proof bourbon, purchased at Total Wine in Fort Worth, Texas. It's now August 2021. I got that bourbon in January, I think. Firestone and Robertson was started in 2010 by Leonard Firestone and Troy Robertson in Fort Worth, Texas. Their first offering in 2012 was the TX Blended Whiskey, which is sourced, but it's a smooth, sweet, dessert-like whiskey that's really quite good, but it is a dessert whiskey. Now, their bourbon took a bit longer and was released in 2016. Unfortunately, the distillery was sold to Pernod Ricard out of Paris, France in August of 2019. And personally, this is my review, so it's all my opinion. I always feel let down when a small company that's local to me, especially if I like the product, if they sell out to the big boys. I'm let down just a little bit, but they did that in 2019. And what it tells me is that the founders may have really liked whiskey and really wanted to give it a go, but in the end, perhaps it's all about money. And there's a positive side to that. Pernod Ricard is huge. It's a mega corporation in the alcohol business. And so that may really open up markets to TX bourbon that otherwise may take years if TX just stayed local. So perhaps their desire to spread this good product around the world, maybe that was part of the decision-making process. Now, when I'm reviewing whiskeys, I've got about 10 points that I go through. So the first point is history. Out of 5 possible points, I'm going to give TX Bourbon a 4 out of 5. Now, this is a new whiskey, so obviously it doesn't have a whole lot of history behind it like some Scotches or Irish whiskeys do. But it is local, and that scores really high for me. And the fact that they sold out to a huge corporation, that kind of cost them 1 point. So a 4 out of 5 for history. Marketing, packaging, what does this whiskey look like here? The base of this bottle extends out a little bit here, and then it kind of tapers up. So it's got a classic and classy look to it. So I really like that. I like the labeling. It's a clear plastic stick-on label. It really looks pretty nice, I think. And then on the top, you can see it's got something weird going on the top. That's boot leather. So they put boot leather in the cap of their whiskeys. And I think that's a pretty interesting way to go. On the label, it does say Texas straight bourbon whiskey, and it gives the proof, 45% alcohol or 90 proof. And it's got Firestone and Robertson logo here. It's actually, the glass is actually embossed with their logo as well. Then all the legal stuff on the back. But it also says, unique flavors. They use local farmed corn and wheat. They use a one-of-a-kind yeast that says we captured and skillfully cultivated. The provenance of this bourbon whiskey is its reward. It's remarkably smooth and exudes unique flavors of dark fruit, sweet spice, and caramel. We hope you enjoy it as much as we do. From the proprietors Leonard Firestone and Troy Robertson. Distilled, aged, and bottled by F&R Distilling Company, Fort Worth, Texas. So this is not sourced. This is a Fort Worth product. The bottle, really, and the cap, it all looks so nice to me. I'm giving it a 5 out of 5 for packaging. And I've never seen an advertisement for this whiskey anywhere, online or really anywhere. I haven't seen any type of an advertisement. Maybe you have. The composition of the whiskey, there's no mash bill listed. As far as I could research, it lists the yellow dent corn. It says, it's Texas corn, it's Texas wheat, Texas barley, and you've got the unique yeast, which is a pecan yeast. And so all of that does come from here in Texas. When you start looking into that yeast thing, it says they sampled over 100 different yeasts before settling on this one strain of pecan. And that really gives it a little bit more of a kind of a unique flavor. I'm going to say it may just be the power of suggestion, but to me, I get a little bit of pecan pie out of this whiskey. It is aged for 4 years here in the hot summers of Texas, and you get those sudden blue northers like we had this last February where it got down to 0 degrees. Today it's like 100 degrees. So that really affects the flavors of whiskey. It's this bourbon's only a 45% ABV, so it's a 90 proof, and they do have some selections that are a higher proof, which I've not tried. This is the only version of this bourbon that I've tried. So out of when I measured the composition, you got 15 possible points. I'm going to give it a 12. I'm going to take off a few points for the lower proof and the fact that I could not find any published mash bill for this whiskey. So 12 out of 15 points. Appearance, physical appearance. If some of the blended scotches like Cutty Sark are very pale yellow, which would be like a 1 on my scale, and some of the very dark whiskeys, let's say Balcones coming out of Waco, Texas, those would be a 5. This TX bourbon, I'm going to give a 3 out of 5. It's not super dark, but it's got a nice color to it. As a 90 proof whiskey, it does have fairly light legs. They're visible, but it's nothing spectacular. So out of 5 possible points for appearance, I'm going to give it a 3. Now, the next category is the nose. What does this whiskey smell like? I am terrible at nosing whiskeys. I've had one too many sinus infections. My nose really doesn't work very well. I know some people who've had COVID and they lose their sense of smell for a while. I've not had COVID, so my nose just doesn't work. My nose got broken 3 times my junior year in high school. So, smelling stuff is just not my thing. It's got, maybe a pale sweet nose with just a hint of that Texas funk that's common in real Texas whiskeys. Again, it may just be the power of suggestion, but I kind of think maybe I'm getting a little pecan on the nose there. I'm going to be gracious and say a 9 out of 10. 10 points available and give it a 9 here, because it doesn't smell bad. I've actually smelled a whiskey that smelled terrible. This one, it's not real strong, but it smells decent to me. The next category is the all-important category of taste. Sweet corn, the goodness of that sweet corn hits you at first, but it's immediately followed by what's known as the Texas funk. Certified Texas whiskeys that are made with Texas products, that are aged here in Texas, they all tend to have what's called the Texas funk. And it's just a unique flavor. No other whiskeys have I tried that have the same flavor profile as Texas whiskeys. And it doesn't matter which distillery you use, they all have this similar funk to them, and it's not a bad thing. It's a good thing, but it's very distinct. I think the weather extremes is what they're saying causes that unique flavor profile. Now, this TX bourbon is very good at 90 proof. There's some varieties that have that higher proof that I'd like to try, but for a 90 proof whiskey, this really's got a nice flavor. I'm getting just something that may be a little bit of the pecan pie flavor going on there. And this Texas straight bourbon, I would just say it's delicious and could be a daily drinker. I really do not get the dark fruit notes that's on the label that other people say they get. But all in all, out of 25 possible points on flavor, I'm going to say this is a 20. So it's a good daily drinker, really highly recommended. Now, what about the mouth feel and the heat level? I'm going to say this is not an exceptionally oily whiskey. It really doesn't have a thick, viscous feel to it. It's got just a little bit, but neither does it taste or feel watery or thin. So it's really, for a 90 proof, it's probably on the lower end for 90 proof. It's got just a little bit of heat on the finish. The finish is medium to short finish for a 90 proof. I really kind of expected a little bit more of a finish. And now some people, when it comes to heat, so a lot of people like a smooth whiskey. I tend to like something with a little bit harshness to it, a little bit more of a burn. I was raised eating hot peppers from the time I was a toddler. My grandmother had a chili petin bush outside of the house there in Uvalde, Texas, and so my cousins, my brother and I, we used to eat those things and then run inside and drink milk. So my dad would get cans of pickled jalapenos down in Mexico. So I was raised eating hot stuff. So I like a whiskey with a little bit of a burn to it. And this is really pretty smooth. So if you guys like a smooth whiskey, this is right up your alley. So I'm going to give it 12 out of 15 points for mouthfeel and heat. There's nothing wrong with this at all. It could just be a little bit more to satisfy me. What about price value or availability? I paid $40 for this 90 proof bourbon, and it has a lot of flavor. It's got a kind of a short finish, but it's decent. So at $40, I think it's a good value. I can find this in any liquor store here in Fort Worth because it is a Fort Worth product. So the purchase by Pernod Ricard is going to most likely enable the rest of the world to taste this delicious whiskey as well. So for price and value, availability, I'm going to give it a 10 out of 10. Now, another category that is kind of different here, but is this good for being neat, drinking neat or on the rocks or mixed? I don't really do mixed drinks. I just don't. I mean, I've had a couple, but when I'm drinking a whiskey, I really like to drink it straight, drink it neat. I don't even like ice in whiskey. I mean, I've even had some higher proof stuff on the rocks, and it just waters it down too much for me. So I really am a neat drinker. But I could see this being excellent as a mixer because it's got some, that kind of a pecan pie flavor that I think is coming through. I think it would definitely drink this on Thanksgiving or Christmas dinner. I think it would go great. In fact, I did have it with pecan pie. I've got a picture of that. I don't know if I can put that up here or not. I'll give it a try. But this is a great neat whiskey for sure. I think at 9 proof, if you put it on the rocks, it'd water it down maybe too much. But I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5 here. Bonus or extra points? This is a 5-point subjective thing, which it's all subjective, but would I give this a 5-point bonus break? I will, because it comes from my hometown here, Fort Worth. It's a very classy bottle. It's got a great Texas flavor to it. It's just plain delicious. It's got great value. So I'm going to go ahead and give it 5 out of 5 bonus points. So my total, when I add all these categories up, is 85 points. Now this is a grading scale that may be fairly tough. I'm not sure. But this Texas Straight Bourbon is going to be certainly one of my favorite whiskeys for a long time. So an 85-point score, to me, that's pretty darn good. It's not quite perfection, for sure. There's things that could be improved, and I may go find one of the higher proof expressions and see if that really kicks it up higher. But those higher proof expressions cost a bit more money, of course. If I'm giving this a letter grade, even though I'm scoring it as an 85, if I was to give this a letter grade, I would bump it up to an A-. I would say this is a very good daily drinker. It's an A-. So the recommend here: buy, drink, share with friends, always keep in stock. And I think you could not go wrong with that at all. So let's call it quits for tonight. Charlie Daniels will see us on out, and we will see you again next time. Thanks for watching.